Now, if you're like me when I was learning music production, compression is maybe one of the last things that you'll truly get your head around. It's complicated, it's hard to understand exactly how it works in action, there's a lot of terminology involved. You've got your threshold, your ratio, your attack, your release, your makeup gain. What exactly do they do to the sound? When would you need to use one? There were a lot of times when I was doing mixes, when I was still learning the ropes, where I felt like maybe I needed to put a compressor in there but wasn't exactly sure why. Or maybe I knew why I needed a compressor, but I didn't know exactly why the attack needed to be where it was, the release needed to be where it was. And I'd play around with it, but sometimes I couldn't even hear the difference. So what I want to do today is share with you a simple idea that helped me remember and visualize exactly what the different functions of a compressor do. So I'm going to go through the four main functions. There's threshold, there's ratio, there's attack, and there's release. And I've got quite an unorthodox way of helping you to understand these that helped me in the past. So let's take a look. Okay, I want you to imagine that this volume knob is the compressor, and the audio that comes out of the interface is what you're going to be applying the compression to. So whether that's something you've recorded already or something you're recording in through a compressor. Now, as I said, we're going through four of the common functions found on a compressor: the threshold, ratio, attack, and release. So imagine we've got the audio coming through. Now what a compressor does is whenever the audio you're compressing goes over a certain level or volume, the compressor will reduce the level by a certain amount or reduce the volume. So the first question is, how loud does the audio need to be before the compressor decides it needs to be compressed or reduced in volume? So if the threshold was high and we had a little bit of quiet audio coming through, it might not even reach the compressor, in which case I would be doing nothing until it got very loud, and then I'd turn it down every time the audio got very loud. If the threshold was very low, then I'm going to be working a lot harder. So even at the slightest bit of increase in volume, I'm going to be reducing that volume. Now the next question to ask is, how much does the compressor reduce the level by? And that's where the ratio comes in. So a very low ratio, for example 2:1, at those points where the compressor is going to kick in with a low ratio, I'm just going to move it a little bit. Okay? With a high ratio, say for example 12:1, I'm going to be dropping the volume a lot when the compressor decides to kick in based on the threshold. So we've got the threshold telling us how loud the audio needs to be before it kicks in, and then the ratio telling us how much to drop the volume by. Now the next function is attack, and what attack does is tells the compressor how fast to kick into action when it reaches that threshold that's been set. So a very slow attack, for example 1 second as an extreme example, whenever the audio hits that set threshold level, the compressor is going to take a whole second before it even does anything at all about it. So the loud peak comes through, wait 1 second, drop the volume. On the contrary, if it was a really fast attack, say for example 1 millisecond, it's going to kick in practically immediately as soon as it hits that threshold level. So loud sound, and so on. The last function I'm going to go over today is the release. And what the release does is tell the compressor how quickly after it's done its compression should it go back to its original state of no compression. So for example, if we had a 2-second release, we'd have the loud sound, the compressor kicks in, and then 2 seconds later it would go back to not compressing. Whereas if we had a really fast release, again say a millisecond, the compressor would do its thing and quickly go back to its original non-compression state. And you know what, I'm going to go over one more, knee. So what knee is, if you have that on your compressor, it's how smoothly the compressor drops a level by. So regardless of the attack and release, is it going to be a really sharp knee where it just drops it quickly to whatever ratio you've set? Or is it going to be a soft knee where it gradually hits to that ratio that you've set? So there are a lot of other functions of a compressor that I'm going to cover in another video: input gain, output gain, makeup, things like that. And in terms of when and how to use these in your mixes and on instruments, take a look on my channel. I've got a few mixing tutorials for you so you can see that in action. So I hope that helped you understand the different functions of a compressor. It really helped me in the past. If you want me to dive into more detail or you want to know anything else about compression, just leave a comment below. And if you hit that subscribe button, you'll be kept up to date with more useful tips just like this. See you next time.